at each of these events based on feedback that we get, and it's always a challenge because it's all over the board. But one of the things that has been coming up and coming up and coming up is multifamily investment. It's become a buzzword, it's become popular, and a lot of people are realizing that you don't have to be a big private equity fund to go out and make investments in the multifamily space. So, I don't see Bryan, but I'm hoping there he is. I see his hand. Come on up here, Bryan. So Bryan Chavis is with the Chavis Group. I do have, normally don't, but I have a couple of little notes so I don't forget. Chavis Capital is involved in the multifamily space. I've known Bryan for a few years. I've gotten to see him speak quite a few times. He's got just an incredible and amazing story. Bryan is a best-selling author, and I think the part that is really cool is Bryan is one of only a couple of real estate authors that have a book in the U.S. Library of Congress. So that's a pretty cool entryway into today. But Bryan's going to tell you hopefully a little bit about his story. If he's not, he's on the spot to do it now because it's an awesome one of perseverance. But he's not someone that's persevered through a lot of things in his life. He's also someone that's incredibly bright about how to go out and tackle the marketplace of multifamily investment. So Bryan, thanks for being here. Come on up.
How's everybody doing? All right, I'm blessed to be here. I want to first thank everyone from Newview, Blake, Jake, everybody that put this together. Greatly appreciate you guys coming out. Okay, good, I got my slide up. All right, so I greatly appreciate you guys coming out and spending a little time. I'm supposed to talk multifamily. I will talk multifamily. I'm going to give you guys some takeaways to go home with and hopefully kind of shed some light on this industry. Hopefully kind of teach you a few things that I've learned since 2012. And why do I say since 2012? Here's, by the way, here's some cool pictures. This is the books on the shelves at Barnes and Nobles. My teachers in high school would be extremely proud, seeing I graduated with a special diploma. And now I have a book in the U.S. Library of Congress. So my teachers will be proud. Big shout out to the public school systems in Lakeland, Florida. And here's an actual shot of my book in the U.S. Library of Congress. Now, I never knew the book was, I got something in the mail. And I read it, so your book's been inducted into the U.S. Library of Congress. So I opened the envelope. Check didn't fall out, so I was like, whatever. I threw it in the garbage. I swear to God, that's a true story. I swear to God, I thought, if I'm getting inducted into the U.S. Library of Congress, they had a nice little seal, nice envelope, no check, no royalties. I was like, I threw it in the garbage. Never thought anything of it. Then my partner in the back there took his family to Washington, D.C. on the trip, field trip. So he went into the U.S. Library of Congress. Let me see if Bryan's telling the truth. Sure, lo and behold, there's the book in the U.S. Library of Congress. So we've got the proof. Things are going good, going excellent. In the mid-2000s, I was one of the few individuals that talked multifamily on the podcast and in the social media realm. Things were really well, books were selling. Really just things are really going well. 2012, Christmas Eve, I'm watching the Golf Channel, and I decided to take a little nap, lay on the couch, and then within an hour of taking a nap, literally levitated off the couch. And I'm shaking and flopping all over the floor, like pop, pop, pop. Just sweating. I have a sweatsuit on because it's Christmas Eve, it's cold. The whole entire sweatsuit is full. I'm dragging myself across the floor, banging on the walls of my neighbor, hoping that somebody can hear me. I'm just having these convulsions. I just slide on down the wall. And at that time, I decided the only thing I could do was pray because I thought I had no clue what was going on. I had the flu at the time, so I thought I was having an allergic reaction to, the Tamiflu or whatever it is. So I'm thinking, okay, well, this is it. So I'm going down and just starting to say my prayers. Lo and behold, get to the hospital. They find out that I have a golf ball size tumor on my motor cortex. So I had to live for 4 years and deal with that. 2 years of chemo, and then in 2014, thank God, Moffitt Cancer Center found a specialist that mapped my brain and decided to risk it. No one would risk it. Yeah, clap the praises for him because no one would risk going in because they all said, well, we're going to paralyze you for sure because your tumor's sitting on your motor cortex. So I'm not going to do it. So this guy was like, well, I'll map his brain and I'll cut around it. We'll figure it out. So as you can see, I'm wide awake during Yeah, that's me smiling right there. So these are the guys here literally cutting into my skull. And then right along here is a bunch of students because it was a revolutionary way of going into the brain and cutting around and removing the tumor and how they did the anesthesia. Anesthesia, somebody help me out with that word. That word. So students are there taking a picture. So they had to wake me and I had to talk, so because they knew they were paralyzing me. After that photo, maybe 45 minutes, I lost all the movement on the left side, lost my ability to speak, walk, and talk. So that was about the last moments of me having all my movement on the left side. It took me about 6 to 9 months. No one can guarantee that I was ever going to get these things back, but to the grace of God, those things did come back. I was able to to bounce back. So, over a period of time, it's a whole different workshop, a whole different course I teach about the perseverance of being able to come back. One of the things I did want to mention, I didn't have any medical insurance. I'm a young guy. I never even had a cavity, so why would I have medical insurance? I just thought that was a waste of money. So little I find out, I'm walking around with a gall-sized tumor in my head, and I couldn't use some medical insurance. So I had to liquidate everything I had. I had to liquidate my ownerships and property management companies that I've started, of course, apartment buildings, so on and so forth, just to be able to pay for this stuff. Chemo was $10,000 a dose. A dose. So the surgery was around $3 million for the first, and a little bit more than that for the exploratory, the surgery that actually removed the tumor. So very expensive. First lesson, get insurance. Not getting paid for that, I probably should, but second lesson that I'm here to talk to you about is the bounce back, the comeback. How was I able to come back? Not necessarily how I was able to walk and talk again, that's for another book. But how did I come back? I came back because of real estate. Everybody's talking multifamily. That's my specialty. So at the end of the day, that is what I've used to come back, to come back. And I believe it's my specialized knowledge in the industry. So I want to share some techniques and tips on that specialized knowledge. If you guys don't mind, is that okay? Is that okay? Yeah. All right. So over the years, I figured out that the industry really consists of 5 phases: the acquisition phase, the implementation phase, the stabilization phase, the growth phase, and then the exit strategy, which is usually the refi or sale and reposition the product and start all over again, the project. The acquisition phase is really all about buying and purchasing on the income approach. Tons of people know about this phase. Every guru, every expert, they make their living on telling you guys how to get rich in real estate. And you can get rich in 90 days, something like that. Buy apartment buildings in 90 days. Everybody talks about underwriting multifamily. It's the sexiest part of all of the 5 phases. No doubt. I don't disagree. But that ain't where the work is done, because somebody's got to show up on Monday and run the property. So the implementation, to me, is one of the most important phases. And then you implement the systems, which there's 2 types of systems: hard systems and soft systems. The hard systems are usually your operations, procedures, manuals that a good property manager or asset manager will put in place to follow the asset manager's management plan that they set for the project. The property manager carries it out. The systems that are used to carry out the operation of that property are typically 2 types: hard and soft. Hard are the procedures manuals. They identify the work that needs to be done, tell the user how to go about performing that work. That provides consistency. In this business, when you can provide consistency like any other, you provide profitability. Does that make sense? Consistency equals profitability, just like any franchise. So you plug in the systems, and then you stabilize. Stabilization depends on the project. I heard somebody talking about affordable housing. Well, if you're in a Class C market, stabilization may take a little longer. You're dealing with much more of a transient product. It's very difficult, I'm not gonna lie to you. Usually skilled property managers on C properties. Why? Because you're dealing with turnover, you're dealing with a different demographic. I've always said, buying real estate is in multifamily, I can't speak to the single family, any of that, but buying multifamily buildings, you're not buying buildings. Buildings never paid me rent. Who pays rent? People pay rent. People pay me rent. So that's what it's about. So buying and understanding how to stabilize a property really depends on the project itself. So I've stabilized properties within a year. I just bought a building in downtown St. Pete, and it took me a year to stabilize, and that is in the downtown market. So I took the rents from the rent schedules are on average 750. I took the rents now we're at 975. So that stabilization took a year. Different projects take a year, different projects may take 6 to 9 months, but it really depends on the project itself. Does that make sense in the market? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So then you stabilize, or you hope to God you stabilize, especially if you raise people's money, told them that there's a return to be had, so you hope that you're stabilizing. Once you get out of stabilization, then you enter into growth. Now you're growing the property, the value, net operating incomes are there, you're maximizing income, and you're minimizing expenses. And obviously, you're doing that because you've learned how to implement the right type of systems to stabilize, to enter into the growth. Now you've provided T12s, P&Ls for a year or so to show that you know what you're doing as an operator. Now you're going into what we call what's the last stage? The exit strategy. So now you're into the exit strategy, and that's where we usually look to refinance the property. So I usually take that, T12, the P&Ls, and I look to refinance the property. And there's usually lenders lined up, especially when they know you know what you're doing, lenders are lined up. So what I do is refi, give the investors back their money, and reposition the product. Does that make sense? And anyone can do this, okay? Is it rocket science? No. Is it hard work? Do you really have to understand the industry? Absolutely. Let's go into it a little bit further. So, this is if you're taking notes, or if you're recording, this is really what I would probably pay attention to. Because I only have 30 minutes, and they asked me to talk to you about multifamily in 30 minutes. And it's probably easier for me to learn how to walk and talk to you than it would be to teach you guys how to do multifamily in 30 minutes. So I'm going to try. There's a process that I coined in my book called the COS Process, Strategic Evaluation of a Target Area. Okay? What that is I'm studying building permit activity. Then I look at employment. Then I'm studying household average sizes. Then I'm looking at demographics, psychographics, mortgage interest rates, and occupancy rates. Why am I looking? Demographics will tell you who they are. Psychographics tells me the why. I'll say that again. Demographics tells me the who. Psychographics tells me the why. Good. So, building permit activity. Why am I studying and looking at building permit activity? Anyone? Growth. There's no crystal ball in real estate, but really there is. If you're studying and looking at building permit activity, you can start to look and figure out where things are going. If you're looking at the super Walmarts, super Targets, there's things that we're looking at and development that we're looking at to be able to kind of predict trends. Then I'm looking at employment. Why am I looking at employment? Anyone? Rent. Yeah, right? I'm looking at employment because I'm trying to paint a picture, kind of get an idea of income, right? And I'll wrap this up and it'll all make complete sense when I'm done. So then we're looking at employment. Then we're looking at average household size. Why would I look at average household size? Anybody?
How large are units?
There you go, the unit mix. So if you're technical and you like the terms, it's the unit mix. And what does that mean? It's the ratios between ones and twos and threes and fours, okay? So I'm trying to paint a picture, trying to get an understanding of what exactly is going on in the city of Orlando. So I'm looking at the average household sizes, because I don't want anyone to try to tell me and bring me a project, and this is a great deal. And, and on paper, it may look like a great deal, but the average family size is, let's say, 4.7 in this particular zip code area. And the units that they're bringing me are all studios and ones. Does that make sense? I mean, you may can rent it out, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. King Solomon said an empty stable stays clean, but there's no income in empty stables. So at the end of the day, I'm not trying to buy something that I'm going to have to work twice as hard to actually rent out. So I'm paying attention to the average household size. Then demographics and psychographics. I don't expect anybody in here to jump and really know what that means right off the bat. But I'll tell you, like I said, demographics tells you the who, psychographics tells you the why. How can I explain that? Is if you've ever have you ever been to a Walmart on one side of the town and went to another Walmart on another side of the town and the items on the shelves were completely different? That's demographics and psychographics. Have you ever do you remember the time when you used to, yeah, okay. Not a lot of millennials in the audience. But do you remember, I know us in the audience remember, when you used to go to Walgreens and get a receipt, and the receipt was about this big? Now you go to Walgreens, you get a receipt, and it looks like the Dead Sea Scrolls. As long as my arm. So where's Greg Kite? Is he still here? Long as, raise your hand, Greg. It's as long as Greg's arm. That's reach. If you remember, who in the building remembers Greg Kite, an NBA legend? All right, yeah, exactly. Give him a shout out. Did a lot for our city of Orlando. So now we got receipts as long as Greg's arm. Why? And what does it have in those receipts? Coupons. A bunch of coupons. And the coupons actually are relevant to what you buy. Why? Because they're watching everything you do. When you buy, they watch it. They track it. They put the items on the shelves. Okay? Does that make sense? The items on the shelves are, they know exactly what you're buying. And we all know what Publix, do you remember Publix used to have the bakeries in the back? Now they have the bakeries in the front. Why? Because they know they're cold. Now they put the bakeries in front because when you're coming in on average at 4 p.m. and you're rushing in to buy food, the bakery used to be in the back. You used to go grab the boxes and a ranch, right? For your quick meal, grab the box, out the door. Now you got to get past the rotisserie. Huh? Now the boxes and a ranch was, what, $1.75? Maybe $2? Now you go back, rotisserie is $6. They upsold you. Average from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., over 4 million at a heavily producing store. Individuals come in, or just under that, some astronomical number. They're making millions of dollars by moving the bakery from the back to the front. So it's understanding the demographics and psychographics. No difference when you're walking through IKEA and they know how to set the place up. Have you ever been to IKEA? It's like a video game. You're looking for the little cheat codes to get through the cut through. If you've been as many times as I've been, you know where all the little secret doors are. If you're not, then you just have to kind of follow the young llamas and follow the people along through the little maze. But they understand how to sell you and where the products and where to put the products on the shelves. It's the same thing. Buying apartment buildings, I can care less about the building. I'm trying to know who you are. Then I find the building that anticipates your needs. Does that make sense? Where most people are talking real estate, they always want to show you a building. They always want to put a building up and say, hey, look, these are projects, this is what we're doing, this is how you invest in multifamily. I can care less about your building. I'm more interested about you all, because you all pay rent. Buildings have never paid me rent. So if I can understand who you are as a prospect tenant, and I can create a rent profile, then I know the values of the asset and what I can pay. Because why? 99.9% of net operating income is made up of what? Say that again. Rent. So if I can figure out your demographic profile, and I know what you guys can pay for rent, then I know what the value is on that asset based on the net operating income. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, I'll be back to teach another class, I promise. If they allow me back. So demographics, psychographics tells me why they choose to rent units, one unit over the next. So I'm understanding how to stage my units. I understand how to market my units. If you watch my YouTube videos that I shoot, everything I do when I walk through these apartment buildings and I'm staging them, especially when I bought in downtown St. Pete, I understood who the prospect tenant's demographic was. Everyone was right at an average of $850. Somebody was getting $850 last year. I'm getting $975. I'm getting $1,100 for some of the units. Why? Because I went in there and I gave them a Class A product at a Class B location. And they're paying for it. Because I understand what the demographic wants, the young professional millennials. So the ceiling fans, when I put a ceiling fan in, I automatically know what I can get for that ceiling fan. I just don't pop a ceiling fan in. I know I can get an extra $35, $45 if I put a certain type of ceiling fan in, or a certain type of vanity, or a certain type of fixture. So everything I do is calculated. That's the point that I'm trying to get at, because I understand who my prospect tenant is. I understand who the prospect tenant is. And when I understand who my prospect tenant is, then I can find the property to identify those needs. And then that's why, when you're working with projects with me, we're not sitting on high vacancies. Why? Because I figured out what the people need. There's no need, they don't sit vacant that long. Watch the videos. I YouTube every day at my properties. I try to do some sort of educational training video. So I encourage you guys to join me. I think it's Bryan Chavis. What is it, Nate?
BryanChavis.com/YouTube.
That's a mouthful. BryanChavis.com/YouTube. I get an excuse. I always get to say, when my wife tells me something, that I don't bring that something home. Like tonight, I know she said something, but I forgot. They removed that part of the brain. I got a hell of an excuse. So, demographics, psychographics, out of all the jokes I've told everybody, they like that one the best. So demographics, psychographics, that's right. I'm looking at mortgage interest rates to kind of get an idea of how I position my products, where we're buying, where the need is, and then occupancy rates really tells me the overall need, where the needs are. And this is a graphic that I came up with, very detailed, scientific graphic that I came up with to be able to show you guys the explanation. Yeah, I take a picture of this, because hell, I worked hard on this. So, jobs equal your prospect tenant, i.e. demographics and psychographics. That gives me the rent profiles or the rent schedules, okay? Pro forma, but I'm not trying to use a bunch of big words and confuse you and impress you. I'll allow my attorneys in the back there to do that. So we create a pro forma. So I'm creating a pro forma. That tells me what I know I can pull in net operating income for a particular property. Not what it's doing currently, but what I can do when I step in. They call it a value add play. So I know what I can do, not based on what I've heard, but based on what I know, based on my research. Then that gives me the idea of the value of the investment. So now I know how to pull the trigger, okay? Now I know when I'm locking the project up, I have a strong suspicion that I'm gonna achieve my goals, okay? Does that make sense? Anyone have any questions about this? I swear to God, this is probably one of the easiest. When they ask me to do this in 30 minutes, all you gotta do is really, yeah, it's possible. All you gotta do is show this graphic and kind of walk you through what I walked you through the last 3 slides. You begin to understand what a syndicator does and how to buy investment property. Then you have the terms that everybody loves to confuse everybody with: IRR, cap rate, equity multiple, cash on cash return. And I know that gets everybody excited when it's in the presentation. Oh, well, the IRR is, 11, 17%. But do we really know what an IRR is? I know hell I didn't when I first heard it. I mean, I'll be the first to raise my hand. I've been in the multifamily industry for God knows how long now. IRR is like a motion picture. So it tells you long term, you're getting how do I explain this? If 2 investments are throwing off $2,000. Let's say we put $250 on a project for 10 years. One project gives, and please don't do the math on this because I'm making this stuff up. All right, so just to kind of make a point. So one investment gives you $150 every month. One other investment doesn't give you a dime, but then it gives you $2,000 in year 10. Both of them may have the same IRR. It may be a 17% IRR. So an IRR is going to look at the efficiency from which you get that dollar back. But you can't just look at an IRR and say, oh, this is a great deal. Because I just gave you an example where 2 deals, one gives you $2,000 and one only gives you $150 every month, and you only put $250 in, but they both return a 17% IRR. They're not the same deal. That's a different cash multiple. So that's why you have investors who use cash multiple, IRR, net present value. So there's more than just one to be able to help you determine the true value of an asset. Because you can get a 17% IRR and, like I said, have 2 different projects. I don't know about you, but I'd rather probably have something every month, okay, than to wait. Well, some of you might want to wait 10 years to get the $2,000, but not me, okay? Especially if you know what I know about life and its expectancy and how short it is, and give me my money now. So, and then also, speaking about that, when you're saying give me my money now, that's IRR. Because $1 today is worth more than $1, and that's what the IRR does. It projects way out and brings you to a certain present value today, okay? So hopefully that helped. Did that help anybody? And then, of course, cap rate really just gives us an idea of a value based on the net operating income of a particular project and where it's located and what properties are trading on. I told you about a cash equity. Equity multiple, cash equity multiple is really simple. If I told you 2 projects return 2x, or 10x, because 10x is sexy, right? 10x, 2 projects return 10x, right? John, I got 2 projects, they both return 10x. You get, both projects return 2x, both will require an investment of $100,000. Are they the same project? Right, yes, right? And then I come over to Penny, I say, Penny, project B, you get your money back in 5 years. John, you get your money back in 2 years. Are they the same? They're the same cash multiple, but are they the same? No. Why? Because one returns it back much more efficient. That's why we're looking at the IRR, so you can't just look at cash multiple. Does that make sense? Can't just look at a cash multiple either. Because if you're just looking at a cash multiple, I didn't tell you when you were going to get that money back. I just said you're going to get 10x. It might be 10x in 2088. And yours might be next year. Not the same. So that's why we're looking at different metrics to be able to understand the investment. I'm not trying to confuse it. I'm really trying to take very complicated formulas and complicated evaluations to try to make them very simple, because I have a very simple mind. So if I can't break it down and put it into colors, then, you know, I don't want anything to do with it. And I've been pretty successful to this point. And this is what I consider a DNA strand of an investment property, okay? So you have the gross potential income, the vacancy minus the vacancy rate will equal your effective gross income plus other income on the property, something like washer machines, vending machines, etc. Put that in, you have now your gross operating income. You minus out your operating expenses, okay, on the property, and you get your net operating income, which is the lifeline of your property, okay? Then you minus out reserve for replacements, debt service, and you get your before tax cash flow, and you get your value, okay? So that is a DNA strand of an investment property. All those formulas I shared with you, simple. They all use what? To determine value, net operating income. And what makes up 99.9% of net operating income? So you guys are geniuses already. You're syndicators and you didn't even know it. So 99.9% of net operating income, we know net operating income is so important, okay? Because at the end of the day, it determines value. And then this is just a slide that kind of shows you the underwriting process. Take a picture of it. I worked hard on this one as well. Step 1, grabbing the rent rolls, T12s. These are the steps that you do when you buy an investment property. You want to analyze the property's rent rolls. It's T12s, which are this operating over the last 12 months. Rental market, cap rates, offer your LOI, negotiate. Market surveys in step 2, walk the properties, create your purchase and sales agreement, open escrow if you're a syndicator, put the money in, go do due diligence, prepare the loan package, update the market survey, finalize the debt and equity, close the deal. And we hope it's that simple. Usually it is. What to look for great syndicators. You always, listen, a fool and their money are quickly departed. A fool and his money are quickly departed. And there's always, please don't get captivated with fancy brochures, including my own. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. I thought she was taking a picture of me. In my pants. This dude's gotta have confidence to wear pants like that. I heard that. I do. I thought I was pulling it off. Got swag. What the young people say, I got swag. So, as I was saying, before I was told to get out of the frame, at the end of the day, you're always going to be pitched something, and it's always going to be shiny. It's always going to say this is a return that you can get. Be careful. Understand. Have basic knowledge before you start moving your money in projects. Get a basic understanding. Take some courses. Get some education, because this is your hard-earned money. Okay? And we're all at a certain age where we can't afford to be putting money in projects, losing money, and starting over from scratch. Okay? I have a heck of a story, but I'm going to tell you, it's because I was able to start over scratch, has nothing to do with me. I mean, I give that credit to God 100%. So I won't take credit for bouncing back and getting all these things back that I have, my walk, my talk, my speech, my pumpings. You know, I give that glory to the man upstairs. But I tell you, at the end of the day, be very careful. Understand what you're doing when you put money in. So you want to look at what kind of percentages and leverage is being used with syndicators, how much reserves these people are telling you that they have on some of these projects. Because all these projects look great. Yeah, great. These look really good. How much do you have in reserves? Because if something goes bad, I don't want you calling my phone talking about something like a capital call. Oh, the roofs are, no, you should have done that in due diligence and make sure that was taken care of in due diligence. So I want to make sure I know how much you have in reserves. Make sure they have enough. And then what is the general partners and the syndicator's background? Are they seasoned? Do they have a record? Do they have a book in the U.S. Library of Congress? I knew that would wake you guys up. So at the end of the day, I was told there's a minute. I'm not going to move any further with the slides because I really don't have any more to cover. I really hope I did my best to kind of explain this industry and give you a 10,000 square foot of this industry in 30 minutes, which is a tall order. But I hope you guys learned something. I hope you had a takeaway from tonight. If you've gotten one thing, if you look at my company and you see the company logo, I have that it's possible. If you remember one thing tonight, remember it's possible. I mean, I look cancer in the face, or in the eyes, and it's possible to beat it. It's possible to come back. It's possible to lose your speech, your walk. It's possible to come back. It's possible to lose your businesses, lose your income, and bring income back. So, again, I don't take credit for that. I thank the good Lord for the ability to be able to be humbled like I was and take the learning lessons that I took. And I hope over a period of time I can get to know each and every one of you and we can share some of those lessons. And you can share some lessons. I can sow some seeds into you and you can sow some seeds into me. But at the end of the day, I hope that this educational experience was good for you guys today. To yourselves and to your businesses. God bless to you all and good luck in the near future. Take care. Thank you. I'm Bryan Chavis and I'm done.